The Atlanta Braves suffered their most demoralizing and humiliating loss of the season on Sunday afternoon in a loss to the Colorado Rockies. I don't know where to go from here. We'll discuss it on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Check out the podcast at LockedOn_Braves. Subscribe to us on YouTube if you're new. Hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. If you're listening on the audio version, leave me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. If you're an everydayer, let me know that down in the comment section below. And if you're a first-time listener, I really appreciate you checking us out here at Locked On Braves. Hopefully, you hang around despite what the Atlanta Braves are doing to you right now. This is where we come for a therapy session. So you want to come to vent your frustrations on this Atlanta Braves team, come do it with us here at Locked On Braves. Thanks for making us your first listen of each and every day. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the weekend that was in Colorado. Just a disaster, a train wreck. It looked like things, again, were maybe turning around for this team. And then everything just absolutely fell apart in the 8th inning on Sunday. We'll break all that down. And then I'll get to some of your mailbag questions. Had a lot left over from last week, so I want to answer those questions today. We'll push Miners Monday back an episode. We'll do that on Monday night. But all that coming your way on this episode of Locked On Braves. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to get parts fast. Shop for your next plumbing, h-vac, or electrical job and get fast shipping from coast to coast at SupplyHouse.com. Well, the Braves head out on a West Coast trip, a 10-game West Coast trip starting in Colorado. And when you got a pitching staff that is struggling, as the Atlanta Braves pitching staff was coming into this series, you never really want to go to Colorado. And while the bats got hot, the pitching just got worse in this series. It was a train wreck. It was embarrassing. It was a disaster. It was another awful series loss that just cannot happen. Once again, it just cannot happen. And here we are every Monday now. I feel like I'm having to vent my frustrations with this Atlanta Braves team. And I don't want to do this. I want to be optimistic. I was all excited to come in here and be optimistic. How the Braves, battled on Saturday to get a win and how they blew them out on Sunday to get a series win. I was all excited and ready to come in here and do that. And then that 8th inning happened on Sunday. I don't want to sit here and overstate and say the season has changed with one inning. But man, that changes a lot. That changes a lot. Like I said, I was ready to come in here and be optimistic and say, the pitching survived Colorado. The bats got hot, and hopefully that carries. Braves get a series win. That's what they need. I was all ready to do that. And then the bottom of the 8th inning happened on Sunday, and that changes everything. That changes the narrative. That changes the vibes. It changes everything. Now, this is the game of baseball, and why I just can't give up on this team is because that can change really quickly. That can change with a good win on Monday. It can change by taking 3 out of 4 in San Francisco. I just don't have the confidence that this team can do that at this point. And look, at the end of the day, the Braves are still right there. They're still in a postseason spot. If the season ended today, they're still a half game ahead of the Mets. And they're losing ground quickly to the two teams in front of them. And now it feels like a battle for the last wild card spot. But they're still in it. And you still have to hope and believe that things can change and turn around. But it's getting harder and harder to have any type of optimism that will happen. And I get it. And I see people coming in the comments, and they're tired of me coming in and being so pessimistic and being so down. I don't know what else you want me to do right now. If this team plays great baseball, I will gladly come on here and talk about it. And to be fair, on Sunday, I thought they played one of their better games in a long time until that bottom of the 8th. I mean, it really is one half inning that takes away a lot of good work that they did on Sunday. A lot of good work on Sunday. But it all boiled down to one half inning where you gave up 7 runs. You had an 8-2 lead. You had a series win in Colorado in your grasp. And look, as bad as the Rockies are, their offense is really good at home, as we saw. And playing there, crazy things can happen, as we saw. But you had an 8-2 lead, one of the best bullpens in baseball, and you let it get away. It just can't happen. When you are trying to get every single win possible and you are struggling to find wins, that cannot happen. And this is the second Monday in a row. And like I said, there's been a lot of Mondays this year I've had to come on here and vent my frustrations, but it's the second Monday in a row where I've had to come in here and say, that can't happen. You cannot win the first 2 games of a 4-game series against a Marlins team that just traded everybody and then drop the final 2 and split that series. That cannot happen. You cannot go and play the Rockies and lose the series. And you especially cannot do that when you have an 8-2 lead in the 8th inning of the final game with a chance to get a series win. So I want to get into the whole series. Let's just go back. Friday night of this series, Grant Holmes, look, love the guy, love the story. I feel like there's something there with him. There's clearly something there with him. He has some good stuff. You can't keep experimenting. It's the Ray Kerr thing earlier in the year. I thought Ray Kerr had some good stuff and maybe has the chance to be a back end guy. But you're experimenting with that at the big league level. And now the Braves are doing that at a time where they desperately need wins. And maybe they believe that Grant Holmes gives them their best chance. Maybe they don't believe Ian Anderson is ready. And I don't think that's a given. Maybe they don't think A.J. Smith-Shawver's quite ready to get another chance. And I think that's understandable. Grant Holmes just hasn't proven that he can get through the lineup, 2+ times right now. Understandable. The guy's been a reliever for years now. Again, I like the Grant Holmes story. I think there's something there. But you got a team that's struggling to get innings out of your starters, and you're running a guy who's been a reliever out there every 5th day now. And it looks like they're going to give him another turn in the rotation. But he runs out of gas on Friday. It's a back and forth game. And in that one, you tie it up and then you give it right back to him. And it's just, again, you feel like they're right there sometimes, especially in the series, and they just can't close it out. But they do bounce back on Saturday, and they get the offense, and they come back in that game. They take the lead. They give it up, and then they take the lead again. And so that was great to see. And you get the home run from Matt Olson. You get them yelling back at the dugout, and you feel like that's that moment. And even Snickers said, we'll see, but that could be one of those moments. Well, it wasn't, turns out. And I don't want to put Sunday on the offense. I certainly don't. But just for a team in general, you can't have that be your moment and then turn around and do what you did on Sunday. All right, let's get into the Sunday thing, because I thought Sunday was their best played game of the weekend, except for 1/2 inning. Look, I didn't understand the Luke Jackson addition to the trade other than the Giants trying to get rid of some more money, and you're taking on some more money from them by taking on Luke Jackson. He has no business being in this bullpen. I said when the trade happened, I said he probably won't be around here very long, if at all. It would not have surprised me if they got him and DFA'd him. I don't think they would do that because they're loyal to the guy for what he did in 2021 and the history that he has here. He does not belong in this bullpen. Give me Dylan Lee. Give me Daysbel Hernandez. There are probably at least 3 or 4 other arms at AAA right now I would rather have over Luke Jackson. Joe Jimenez comes in, and look, can't put it all on Luke Jackson. Jimenez comes in, and 6 pitches later, the Braves are losing. Now, in Jimenez's defense, he probably didn't think he was going to have to pitch in this game. He should not have had to pitch in this game. It is an 8-2 lead in the 8th inning. You want to try your best. You should be able to trust your 7th and 8th bullpen arms to get you through the 8th and 9th inning in an 8-2 game. You should be able to, but it is Coors Field. Crazy things happen. Joe Jimenez probably thinks he's not going to pitch in this game. All of a sudden, Luke Jackson just cannot get an out, and you have to all of a sudden pivot and go to Joe Jimenez to try to get you out of a jam. Rocky's very aggressive, swinging against him, and just everything finding a hole, everything right over a glove. It's just, it's an excuse. He was getting hit hard, but none of those were really terrible pitches, except for maybe the one to Brendan Rodgers, a slider that was down, but it was over the middle of the plate. One pitch was, a good 4 or 5 inches off the plate away. It's just, still, you got to be able to make the pitches to get the outs there. That just cannot happen. It can't happen. And it took away what I thought was their best played game of the weekend, and it made it one of, I'm not even going to say one of, this to me tops the 1-0 loss to the White Sox. You could maybe call it 1A and 1B, but those in my mind are the 2 worst losses of the year. But to have an 8-2 lead in the 8th inning and lose, it's demoralizing. Again, especially coming off Saturday where, the offense finally did what I wanted them to do, and they won a game despite the pitching. That's what I've been asking for. And then you turn around and do what you did on Sunday. It's just, this team cannot get out of its own way. They continue to just kill themselves. And it's frustrating. It's very frustrating from a fan perspective. And I don't know where this team goes from here. And look, like I just said, they're still in a postseason spot. There's still plenty of baseball left to be played. Things can change very quickly in baseball. Like I said, they could win this series against the Giants. You can very easily go and win a series against the Angels. Yeah, end up having a winning road trip, and you go back home feeling really good about yourself. But it's just, these losses keep adding up, and it's just really, really tough as a fan to sit here and watch this. I'm tired of coming on here and being pessimistic. I don't want to. I want to be optimistic. I want to come on here and tell you how much I loved watching this team and watching them play. It's just hard to say right now. It really is. I do want to get into the good of the weekend because the offense was really good. 24 runs on the weekend, 11 home runs. Matt Olson's huge game on Sunday had 6 runs batted in. The grand slam, Jorge Soler homered in all 3 games, including twice on Sunday. It was great to see. Great to see that offense, even in Coors Field. Great to see that offense get going. The pitching just could not do its part. And if the pitching falls apart for this team, the Braves are in some serious, serious trouble. And it was Coors Field, and I'm willing to give somewhat of an excuse for that. There's no excuse for blowing an 8-2 lead. And look, you can put that on Brian Snitker if you want. Maybe you get somebody up after Luke Jackson gives up the home run and makes it 8-4. You get somebody in that ball game to shut it down right there. You should be able to trust Luke Jackson in the 8th inning in an 8-2 game. Maybe you shouldn't. I don't know. It's a 6-run lead in the 8th inning. Again, if you can't trust Luke Jackson in that spot, why is he on this team? And maybe that's the question we should be asking. If you cannot trust Luke Jackson in an 8-2 game, why is he on this team? And maybe he won't be for long. We'll see. But just to turn what could have been, a really good weekend, a defining moment on Saturday with that comeback win and that big moment from Matt Olson, turned what could have been another turning point in this season for the Braves team in the positive direction to now they're trying to pick the pieces up again and find another spark to get going. Maybe that'll happen in this Giants series. We'll talk more about that later. But next, I want to get into some of our mailbag questions that we missed from over the weekend. Some of those questions asking about Brian Snitker. Some other fun questions as well to take away from the disaster weekend that we just discussed. We'll get into all of that here next. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades. We're talking about SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free TradeMaster program. Every TradeMaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. Thank you for making Locked On Braves your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. Host Paul Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, is here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube everywhere you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. You know what we are. It's your team every day. Nobody else can say that. We are your team every day here at Locked On. I'll be here for you every day this week. Win or lose, we may be shifting up the schedule of when we post a little bit just because another West Coast trip and some late games. I'm still recovering from the last one, but we'll be here with you every day this week to discuss about it. We are going to push Minors Monday. I'll probably record early on Monday night, maybe even during the game on Monday night, and we'll do Minors Monday there and probably continue talking about this Braves team and this disastrous weekend that they have. But I want to get to some questions because I had so many on our mailbag podcast from Friday. If you missed that, go back and give it a listen. But there were some questions I couldn't get to, so I want to answer those now. Emmanuel says, how can the Braves stop the 10-plus Ks per game? Great question. Don't strike out as much. But in all seriousness, a two-strike approach would help. This Braves team just doesn't have that. There is no two-strike approach. I've talked about it with this lineup, and there wasn't a two-strike approach last year. They still did a great job of not striking out, but this team's built on power, and they want to get their A swing every time. Two strikes or not, doesn't matter. They are swinging for the fences, and that's just the approach this lineup has. They have an Adam Duvall who's now back into the lineup with the Laureano injury. They have a Jared Kelenic that's striking out 30% of the time. Matt Olson 28%. There's a lot of strikeouts in this lineup. And it's a lot of guys. Look, do you want Matt Olson to have a two-strike approach? I don't know. I kind of want him just swinging for the fences. That's what he's there to do and did a good job of over the weekend. There's just not a lot of guys in this lineup that are really going to have that great two-strike approach. And until that happens, you're going to continue to see 10-plus strikeouts a game. Doc's card, who does AA tap to take the helm after Snit eventually hangs it up? Do they fire or do they hire from within? Poach coaches from the Angels, go after some retread, Giardi, Showalter, etc., or go after some younger mind from an organization like the Orioles. If I had to guess and speculate, I think Walt Weiss is probably going to be one of the leading candidates. That would be somebody from within. I don't think there'd be a Ron Washington, reunion or anything like that. Maybe Eddie Perez would be a candidate. Maybe Mark DeRosa if they go outside. I think a Joe Girardi would make some sense. Obviously, I haven't looked into this because I don't think Snitker's going anywhere, at least this year. I think it would be after next season that it happens. But I think they would probably look within first, and they'd probably look – Walt Weiss would more than likely be, I think, one of the first people that they look at. Chuck McMillan, when the season ends, who all are free agents, who have options, and where do we stand with the CBT if we exercise the options, and where do we stand if we don't exercise the options? So a lot to discuss there. We'll get to more of that in the offseason. I'll say the biggest one is Marcell Ozuna, who has a $16 million team option that has to get picked up. If I'm the Atlanta Braves, I don't care that they got Jorge Soler. Really doesn't make much sense, but I think you have to pick up the Marcell Ozuna team option for next year. That just feels like a no-brainer at this point. He's one of the best hitters in all of baseball. Just looking at some more team options for next year, Aaron Bummer has a $7.25 million team option. I think you could go either way on that one. They're definitely not picking up the $7 million team option for Luke Jackson. Travis d'Arnaud has an $8 million team option. I feel like that's going to be picked up as long as he wants to come back again. And Whit Merrifield has an $8 million team option. That one, they may actually pick that one up. I think Whit Merrifield's been pretty solid in replacement for Ozzie Albies and would be a really nice bench piece. That might be too expensive for what the Braves want on the bench there. But those are the guys with options for next season. And again, the only one that I think is obvious is Marcell Ozuna. $16 million team option for one of the best hitters in baseball. That's a no-brainer. You got to pick that one up. As far as the CBT, right now Fangraphs has them at around $193 million towards the collective bargaining tax threshold. So, there's some room because that's going to go up to 280 or 180 after this season. So, they do have some room to go there for next season. But again, we're going to have to talk about this a lot in the offseason. I don't really want to get too deep in the weeds right now, but the Braves may go under the luxury tax threshold. Sorry, it is $244 million this year. Or sorry, it's $237 million this year. It's going to go to $241 million next year is the first tax threshold. And the Braves may have to get under that. And they're at about 193 right now, projected by Fangraphs. So there is some room to work there, but we may be looking at the Braves stepping back and getting under that first luxury tax threshold because it would be the third year in a row, and that comes with much stricter penalties. Cavs Buckeyes, did A make a cheap play at nostalgia at the deadline, or was Soler legitimately their best option? It's hard not to envy Jazz right now, especially his versatility, but New York gave up a real prospect for him. I love Jorge, but the fit is weird and won't change. So here's the thing, and I'm okay with what the Braves did at the deadline. I didn't love the Jorge Soler trade. I still don't think it's a great fit, even though Soler just had a big weekend, and I think he's, as I said when the trade happened, he's going to help this team. There's no doubt about that. I just think the fit for, where he is, where he plays, and what you already have on this team, and what he's owed in the future, just didn't make a lot of sense. I would have preferred to get a Mark Canha like the Giants did, who, again, I think straight up probably isn't a better player than Jorge Soler, but can do some similar things. And as a rental player, I would have rather gone and gotten a Jesse Winker, who, again, might not bring the impact, at least power-wise, but can do some similar things and has more speed. I think there were other moves to be made that wouldn't have required you to give up your top prospect. I never thought the Jazz thing was going to happen. And I don't think this was the deadline, and there hasn't been a deadline yet where Alex Anthopoulos has really given up any top prospects. The only deals he's done that for were Sean Murphy and Matt Olson. But this just wasn't the year to do that with everything that's gone wrong with this Braves team. This just was not the year to give up Spencer Schwellenbach, Hurston Waldrop, players that other teams were certainly asking for to go get that guy, because this Braves team it needed a lot, honestly, and it needed a lot to go their way. And it just, in my opinion, wasn't worth doing that. So getting Soler was a way to not have to give up any of your really good prospects, get a player that can help you. I don't think it was the perfect fit, but maybe for what Alex's plans were, which were to stay under the luxury tax, the third luxury tax threshold, and to not give up any top prospects, and to give this offense a boost. He checked all those boxes. It needed more. It got to the point where the Braves needed 3 or 4 moves at the deadline, and there just wasn't the capacity to do that with, 1, not going over that third luxury tax, and 2, without giving up some of your better prospects. So I think he did okay. Like I said, I gave him a failing grade just because he didn't do enough, but I just don't think he had the resources to do enough. Jordan Watley, are we going to miss the playoffs? No. And I know that's may seem crazy to sound with this past week that we've had and the loss the Braves just had, but until they don't make the playoffs, I'm going to believe that this team makes the playoffs. There's far too much talent still here, even with all the injuries, for this team not to at least get one of the wild card spots. I still believe that. I do. Call me crazy, but I still believe that. Braves Battalion, what is your all-time favorite sports book that you enjoy reading? Of Mikes and Men by Pete Van Waren's my favorite book. That's my childhood, listening to him and Skip and just hearing those 90s years from his point of view. It's my favorite book. So Of Mikes and Men. Sethan says, why does God hate me? He does not. If you want to discuss that further, please DM me on social media. We'll be glad to have that conversation with you. Caden Hurd, with us starting to finally be healthy and get guys back, is now the time to call Ian Anderson up to make a start and to see what we can get out of him. I don't know if it lines up with where Grant Holmes pitches in San Francisco from Ian's last start, but he was pretty good. Still too many walks. I believe it was 3 walks in 6+ innings. That's something that he's always struggled with, but still was really good overall and has been his last couple of starts. So I think we're getting closer to seeing Ian Anderson, but it looks like it's not going to be in this next series. But I do think we see him pretty soon. And Jay Smith says, "What's the point? Ha ha ha." I don't know what that's in reference to, but the point is, this is baseball. And if this Braves team can just get into the postseason, my confidence isn't high. I'll be honest, my confidence was not high in 2021. I know people don't want to keep hearing that comparison, but it is baseball. You get in, and with everything that's gone against this Braves team this year, maybe everything just goes completely right for them in the postseason, but they got to get there first. Caden Hurd, can we still win the division? In your opinion, what would it take? No, this was your chance. This was your opportunity to get back in the division, and the Braves have not capitalized. We talked about it a week ago. You had that series against the Marlins. You need to at least win. You need to win that series against the Brewers and then go on the West Coast and have a good trip, which they still can. But losing this series to the Rockies, I believe they're now 7.5, 8.5 out now. They can't win this division. They had to play pretty much flawless baseball over this stretch that they're in right now, and they haven't done that. Unless they just come through and sweep the rest of this, or win 3 out of 4 against the Giants, sweep the Angels, maybe, and you get it under to 5.5 before, the midway mark, before you get those 2 series against the Phillies, then maybe. But it would take that. It would take the Braves going on a run like the Padres and Diamondbacks are on right now. That's what it would take. And I just don't have the confidence this team can do that. All right, I got a couple more questions to get to, and then I want to preview this Giants series coming up this weekend. Like I said, Braves got to bounce back and get on track. We'll discuss that here next. Do you like getting free money back when you buy things? Of course you do. Dumb question. Ibotta is a free app that gives you the most cash back every time you shop on hundreds of items, from groceries to beauty supplies to toys, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $145 per year. That can cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, buy that flight you've been eyeing, or that game you've been dying to go to. Look, the way the Braves are playing, attendance may be down. You could probably get really good seats for $145. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much. But with Ibotta, you get real cash back. You can get it on PayPal, gift cards, or straight to your bank account. Join the over 50 million savers and earn cash back every time you shop from over 2,700 brands and retailers, including Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. That's code LOCKEDONMLB. You can download the Ibotta app on the App Store or Google Play. Again, use our code LOCKEDONMLB. You're going to get $5 for free just for trying the app. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, and use code LOCKEDONMLB. I love sports, although I'm a little upset with them right now, but I love sports so much, I never want them to stop. Even this Braves team, just don't stop. I still want to watch you every single day as much as you hurt me and make me hurt as you did on Sunday. You do have other sports that are starting to get ready soon, but right now it is just Major League Baseball, which is A-OK with me. And FanDuel is hooking up all customers this summer with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every single day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. They got daily parlays on there for Major League Baseball, daily props as well. And you got award winners that you can go ahed and take a look on, see who is the favorite there. I'm not a gambler myself, or I don't bet, but I like to go out there and see who the favorites are to win the awards. Chris Sale still the favorite for the NL Cy Young. You can check that out at FanDuel.com. Also, make sure you visit FanDuel.com/PlaySafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, let's quickly get through a couple more questions here, then preview the series coming up. Fraser Dale says, why are the Braves so bad this year? Last year amazing, this year terrible. Why? I wish I knew. I wish I could tell you. Outside of just a ton of really bad injuries to key players, I wish I really knew why this team was so bad. Even with all the injuries, it does not excuse just a terrible play that they've had. And I wish I had the answer. I wish the Braves had the answer, more importantly. Chris Mofield, have you quit in this team the way it appears they have quit? Bad vibes most of the season. I have not quit. As I said earlier, I still think they're going to make the postseason, and I'll believe that until the day they don't. Matthew Carter, why in the world did we trade for Murphy? Such a dumb trade. I believe they traded for him because they just didn't believe in the defense of William Contreras. And with the way the game was changing, they wanted to get somebody that was elite defensively behind the plate. I think that's why they traded for Sean Murphy. I'm going to do a full episode talking about the Sean Murphy trade here at some point soon because it's just too big of a discussion to really get to right now. But that's why the Braves traded for him. That's why I think the Braves traded for him. I think they believed in the bat of William Contreras. They just never thought he'd be able to handle the position defensively. Aiden, last one, says, do you think Brian Snitker should win Coach of the Year? No, I don't. I don't think he deserves as much criticism as he's gotten, but this team has underperformed despite all the injuries. All right, next series coming up. You got 4 against the Giants. They are firmly in the wild card mix right there on the heels of the Atlanta Braves. They're 12-3 over their last couple of weeks here. Tyler Fitzgerald's been hot. Just a crazy story, too. 10 home runs in his last 21 games. Matt Chapman, a 903 OPS. Yastrzemski, 879 OPS in his last 23 games. Their bullpen, they just sent down Camilo Duvall, which is kind of crazy. They have Ryan Walker, Tyler Rogers in their bullpen. It's really, really good pitching matchups. Sale versus Snell. It's kind of weird to say. Morton versus Harrison. Holmes versus Robbie Ray. And Max Fried versus Logan Webb. So going to be a big series here. Again, Braves trying to get up off the mat once again. They'll try to do that this weekend or this week against the San Francisco Giants. That will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Go make Locked On MLB your second listen. If you haven't already, subscribe to us on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you do all those things to support us here at Locked On Braves, and thank you so much for doing so. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.